As President Barack Obama reaches the final stages of his presidency, for the general public, he will most likely be remembered for denuclearizing Iran and opening the door back up to Cuba. But will the Drone King also be remembered for normalizing targeted killings as a pillar of U.S. counter-terror policy? Well, on his third day in office, Obama authorized 2 drone strikes in Pakistan, killing over a dozen civilians. It set the tone for an administration that's killed thousands by weaponized unmanned aerial vehicles, the vast majority of whom did nothing to deserve their fate except for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The vast majority of whom the U.S. fails to recognize as victims in the ever-expanding war on terror. Perhaps that's why, when it was announced in October 2009 that Obama would be the year's recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, the president himself said he was surprised and felt undeserving of the award. After all, he'd been in office for less than a year, and in that year, the U.S. was fighting 2 wars. Most of the Nobel Committee's consideration of the Green President revolved on campaign promises of helping to build a more peaceful world by scaling down U.S. militarism. Promises distilled into 2 words: change and hope. Now let's go look back at those first 2 drone strikes, though, on January 23, 2009. The first CIA drone strike flattened an entire house. Now, despite initial reports the attack was a success, killing as many as 10 militants, including foreign fighters, and possibly even a high-value target, later reports revealed something else: that at least 9 civilians were killed. The lone survivor, Fahim Qureshi, suffered severe injuries, shrapnel wounds in his abdomen, a fractured skull, and he lost an eye. He was 14. Now, the second drone strike of the day killed 5 to 10 people. Again, all civilians. This loss of innocent human life didn't deter the Nobel Peace Prize winner from continuing to authorize drone strikes throughout both terms of his presidency. And even today, weaponized drones continue to rain down death and destruction as part of the CIA efforts or other covert operations. These attacks are taking place today, most notably in Yemen, Pakistan, Somalia, and Afghanistan. Through coalition airstrikes have occurred in Iraq and Syria as well. Now, the Bureau of Investigative Journalism maintains an active database of reported drone strikes and casualties in Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, and Afghanistan. The Bureau's figures largely come from news sources and NGOs operating in these countries, not the official government figures that grossly misrepresent the deaths of civilians as enemies killed in action. Now, since 2004, according to the Bureau, Pakistan has been hit the most with drones, an astounding 423. The vast majority of those strikes were authorized not by W, who first got the drone program off the ground, but by the Nobel laureate himself, President Obama. In fact, the Bureau notes most strikes were launched during President Obama's first year in office than during both terms of the Bush presidency. Not quite the change and hope voters were hoping. According to Pitch Interactive, of the 3,341 people who have been killed in drone strikes in Pakistan since 2004, less than 2% of the victims are high-profile targets. The rest are civilians, children, and alleged combatants. Now, The Intercept provides an even more damning indictment of Obama's drone program in its series called The Drone Papers. And in Jeremy Scahill's recent book called The Assassination Complex, Scahill's team at The Intercept analyzed classified documents provided to the organization by a whistleblower who exposed the inner workings of Obama's drone wars. Those documents highlight the program's expansion of unconventional warfare, both on and off declared battlefields, as well as an alarming lack of transparency and due process. Now, drones, Scahill writes, are a tool, not a policy. The policy is assassination. Indeed, the horrifying reality is that in this system devoid of transparency and accountability, innocent civilians are dying in far higher numbers than the imminent threats the drones are supposed to be targeting. The leaked documents, which cover Operation Haymaker in northeastern Afghanistan, reveal that during one 5-month period of the operation, nearly 90% of the people killed in airstrikes were not the intended targets. And the ratios may be much higher in Yemen and Somalia, where intelligence is more limited. Speaking to Shatterproof's Kevin Gatsala, Scahill explained the dehumanizing way in which drones seek and destroy their targets.
The source for the drone papers, who had worked on these high-value targeting campaigns, as the Obama administration likes to call it, really described a kind of sickening system where there was a cavalier attitude about anyone who was around the cell phone of someone that they believed to be a terrorist. Because the way that the overwhelming number of cases where people are being killed in drone strikes, it's not that you're killing people, it's that you're blowing up a phone that you believe to be held by the person that you are hunting. And many drone operators and people who work on these targeting platforms never even know the actual name of the person that they're targeting. They're either given a designation like, sandbox 1, sandbox 2, and those are describing the SIM card or the phone that they have. And then they're given just a number on the screen, and so they know that they are tracking this series of numbers. And it's a way of dehumanizing the enemy.
Now, in addition to being completely dehumanizing, Obama's drone wars rely on unreliable data and metadata, something even the Intelligence Surveillance Task Force, a Pentagon entity, has acknowledged. Now, in a 2013 secret report leaked to The Intercept, the ISR stated bluntly, kill operations significantly reduce the intelligence available. Now, aside from the obvious failings in intelligence and without even broaching the morality of targeted killing campaigns, the drone wars operate in a hazy legal context. In 2013, Obama put forth policy guidelines that were theoretically meant to stop or at least curtail the use of drones. But as Trevor Tim wrote for The Guardian last year, it has become increasingly clear that the rules are virtually meaningless, and the Obama administration is setting a terrifying precedent for the next president who can change or expand them on a whim. Now you're probably thinking, okay, but drone strikes must at least be conducted within the framework of international law. Well, actually, they're also in contravention of international, humanitarian, and human rights law. A Truth Out report on divesting from drone manufacturers explains. It states U.S. targeted killings arguably fit under the definition of crimes against humanity as defined in the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. But how could this be? Obama is a Nobel Peace Prize winner. Well, even Geir Lundestad, the former non-voting director of the Nobel Institute, wrote in his 2015 memoirs that awarding Obama the prize was only partially correct and did not achieve what the committee had hoped for. In announcing the deliberately vague and thus mostly useless guidelines on drone use in 2013, Obama said, "It is a hard fact that the U.S. strikes have resulted in civilian casualties, a risk that exists in every war. And for the families of those civilians, no words or legal construct can justify their loss." Of course, there is nothing that can soothe the pain of a grieving family, but that doesn't mean it's not worth trying. A good place to start might be in bringing an end to the program that's normalized targeted killings as a pillar of U.S. counter-terror policy and pushing harder for greater transparency and accountability. Hopefully, that change Obama promised is on the horizon.